The price of football is a big talking point at the moment, but how valuable has your season ticket been this year? Let's talk about it. What I've gone ahead and done is I've taken each championship club's cheapest adult season ticket and I've divided it by the number of goals your team has scored at home this season to work out how much you've paid so far per goal you've seen at home. And let me just tell you, there has been a massive variety in what championship fans of different clubs have paid to see some goals this season. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like, but without any further ado, let's jump into this. We're going from cheapest to most expensive. And coming in with the best value for money, of course it was always going to be Burnley fans, who so far this season have paid just £7.41 per goal they've seen at Turf Moor this season. Their season tickets at the start of the year were fairly reasonable. The cheapest adult season ticket you could get at Burnley cost you £319, and so far Burnley have scored more goals at home than any other championship club, with 43 scored so far. So yeah, that's great value for money Burnley fans are getting. Next up, and a bit of a surprise entry this low down in the list, we've actually got Birmingham, whose fans have paid just £10.22 per goal they've seen this season. Birmingham haven't been amazing so far and they've only hit the back of the net 22 times at home, but because their season tickets were so cheap at the start of the season, they still rank really well in this regard. The cheapest adult season ticket at Birmingham at the start of the season cost you just £225, which was the cheapest in the championship. Reading fans also paying just over £10 so far this season per goal they've seen at home. Their season tickets at the start of the season cost just under £300 for an adult season ticket, and so far this season Reading have actually been fairly decent at home. 19 matches played, 10 wins, 26 goals scored in that time. Now at the start of the season, Sheffield United did have some of the most expensive season tickets in the championship, but because they've been so good at home this season and because they've scored so many goals at Bramall Lane, it's actually worked out as quite decent value for money for Sheffield United fans, who have paid just £11.50 per goal they've scored at home so far this season if you were to buy the cheapest adult season ticket. It's not been a great season for Swansea so far, but generally speaking they've also got decent value for money when it comes to goals scored and their return so far and how much they paid at the start of the season. Swansea fans have paid £11.50 per goal they've seen at home this season, and they're actually the fourth highest scoring side at home this season, believe it or not, with 30 goals scored so far. QPR fans have had a bit of a miserable time in 2023 generally speaking, but they have had decent value for money when it comes to how much they paid compared to the actual goal return they've seen at home so far this season. Now QPR did have quite a wide range of how much season tickets actually cost at the start of the season, but the cheapest season ticket was around the best valued in the league, and so far this season they've paid just £11.75 per goal they've seen at Loftus Road. Rotherham season tickets at the start of the year were fairly pricey considering they just come up from League One. They paid £355 as the cheapest adult season ticket, but they have been amongst the top scoring sides at home so far this season, having scored 30 goals already. What that means in terms of a return on their investment, if you had bought a season ticket at Rotherham, it means it would have cost you £11.83 per goal that you've seen at the New York Stadium this season. At the start of the season, Middlesbrough had the second most expensive season tickets in the championship, but because they've been the second most prolific side at home so far this season, it's actually worked out as fairly decent value for money. At the start of the season, as a minimum, as an adult at Middlesbrough, it would have cost you £450 for a season ticket, and so far this season, worked out with how many goals they've scored, would have only cost you £12.50 per goal you've seen at the Riverside this season. West Brom's season tickets were fairly reasonable at the start of the season. So far for a goal at the Hawthorns, it would have cost you £12.65 had you bought an adult season ticket. West Brom ranked 6th in the league in terms of home form, scoring 26 goals in home matches this season. Despite Blackpool having the third worst home record in the championship, they have had their fair share of goalmouth action, and so far a season ticket at Bloomfield Road, worked out over the season so far, would have cost you £12.88 per goal you've seen this season. There have been a few thrillers in there, and I'm sure that the 6-1 hammering of QPR massively reduced this fee down in terms of the goalmouth action that Blackpool have seen this season and how much it costs for that. Starting to get a little bit more pricey per goal here. A season ticket at Millwall at the start of the season was fairly expensive compared to the rest of the Championship. As an adult, it would have cost you a minimum of £396, but as they've had the 5th best home record in the league so far this season, and they've also scored a fair few goals at the Den, would have cost you on average £13.66 per goal you've seen this season. Hull City haven't been amazingly prolific in front of goal at home so far this season, but as their season tickets were fairly reasonable at the start of the season, it works out at £14.28 that their fan base has paid per goal they've seen at home this season. Watford at home have seen their fair bit of goal mouth action, but their season tickets were quite pricey at the start of the season. The cheapest adult season ticket at Watford would have cost you a minimum of £402 at the start of the season. Overall Championship rankings for home form, Watford are 8th at the moment, having scored 28 goals, which isn't an awful return, but worked out up against the season ticket cost would have cost Watford fans £14.35 per goal they've scored so far. And it's just that little bit more expensive at Coventry so far in terms of what they paid per goal. Their season tickets were cheaper than Watford's, but as they've scored less goals at home, this does up the price a little bit. £14.38 the Coventry fan base has paid per goal they've seen at home this season. I don't think that Huddersfield fans have got amazing value for money in terms of the brand of football they've seen and the general results and things like that. But at the start of the season, their season tickets were fairly cheap. They were along with some of the cheapest in the Championship, costing just £249. Worked out with the goals they've scored this season, Huddersfield fans have paid £14.65 per goal they've scored. They have been one of the lowest scoring sides in the Championship, particularly at home where they've only scored 17 goals so far. Stoke fans, I just think have been a little bit frustrated all year. To be fair, coming into this international break, things have started to pick up under Alex Neil, and it does seem as if things might start to turn in the right direction, but first half of the season especially, the Stoke fans must have just been tearing out their hair at how many open chances they went ahead and missed. Worked out over the season so far, Stoke fans have paid £14.96 per goal they've scored if they were to have bought the cheapest adult season ticket at the start of the year. Bristol City do rank in the top 10 in the Championship for their home record this season, but their season tickets were somewhere in the middle in terms of a price range. The cheapest adult season ticket at Ashton Gate would have cost you £365, and as they've scored 24 goals at home so far this season, it would have cost a Bristol City fan £15.20 per goal they've scored. I expected Cardiff to be fairly high up this list, but it's still mental because they had the second cheapest season tickets in the Championship at the start of the season. Only Birmingham fans had cheaper season tickets than Cardiff did, and yet if you were to have bought a Cardiff season ticket at the start of the season, it still would have cost you £15.56 per goal you've seen at home this year, which isn't a great return on your overall investment. So far, Cardiff have only scored 16 goals at home this season, which is only better than 2 Championship sides who are yet to come. Blackburn actually have the second best home record in the Championship, but despite that, they've not been the most prolific of sides. They've scored 25 goals at Ewood Park so far this season, and what really bumps up the cost per goal is the fact that their season tickets really were quite expensive at the start of the season. The most expensive in Lancashire, £399 a season ticket at Ewood Park would have set you back at the start of the season, and factored in the 25 goals they've scored, that's £15.96 per goal Blackburn have paid so far. We are into the top 5 now, and funnily enough, coming in 5th place, we actually have Sunderland, who on the whole I think have had a really positive season, but an adult season ticket at the Stadium of Light would have cost you a minimum of £390 at the start of the season, and factored in the goals they've scored at home, that's a whopping £16.25 per goal they've scored so far this season, which is a lot compared to some of those others earlier on in the video. Luton fans have been having a great time this season, but their season tickets were really expensive at the start of the year, the 3rd most expensive in the Championship actually. Worked out for how many goals they've scored this season. At Kenilworth Road, it would have cost you £17.91 per goal they've seen at home, which is definitely on the pricey side. Speaking of expensive though, Norwich did have the outright most expensive adult season tickets at the start of the season, which would have cost you a minimum of £534. Despite this, they're not bottom of the ranking, or should I say top, in terms of how much it would have cost you per goal you've seen so far this season, but it is still ridiculously expensive. For a Norwich fan this season, an adult season ticket holder, so far they've paid £19.77 per goal they've seen at home. And I expected Preston to show up high on this ranking, but this is absolutely ridiculous, especially factored in the fact that I think Preston had the 4th cheapest adult season tickets at the start of this season, but despite all of that, it still cost a North End fan £20 per goal we've seen at Deepdale this season. We have been the joint lowest scorers at Deepdale this season, with just 14 goals scored in the 19 matches we've seen so far, and £20 per goal in the Championship is just ridiculously bad value. But that is nothing compared to Wigan Athletic, who ranked top of this ranking, and fair play to Wigan season ticket holders, because so far this season it has cost you £27.07 per goal you've seen at the DW, which is absolutely ridiculous. Wigan did have fairly expensive season tickets at the start of the season, considering they'd just been promoted from League One to the Championship, and the fact that they are the joint lowest scorers at home along with Preston, having only scored 14 goals in the league so far, that is ridiculous. £27 per goal you've seen. But guys, there we have it. That will wrap it up for today's video, just for a little bit of fun. Obviously, all of these will come down by the time we finish this season and your side scores more goals, but as of right now, that's how much you've all paid per goal you've seen. I thought was an interesting indication of the price of football at the moment. If you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But for that, I'll see you all in the next one.